We're back, Seven Rivers Racing here in KQEG TV. I'm Dan Dykler with Al Losi, recapping what happened last Saturday night, and we were talking about the points races, how I'm labeling this Separation Saturday this coming weekend, as we've got two 20-lap features coming up for the late models. Sportsmen, there's about 4 drivers, all within about in earshot of each other that I think you're going to see some separation coming up with. Same thing with the Thunder Stocks, as 5 drivers are 28 points within each other, with the first place being led by Jordan Myers. 2-point lead over Dakota Miller as we recap Saturday night's race. Jason Bolster back in the winner's circle. Dan Rosick, probably one of the best chances he's had this year to win this thing. Got a little bit loose there coming out of turn 2 down the back straight. And that allowed Jason Bolster just enough room to clear himself to take the checkered flag on Saturday night. And Bolster's one of those drivers, you let him get out front, man, and you can forget. He's just like one of the Moors. You can get him out front and you may as well forget it. Yeah, they get clean air. They end up being able to run some really nice lines, and that's really tough, especially when you're looking right behind him for second and third. They're side by side. That slows the 2 cars down, and he's able to run away. Jordan Myers has a 2-point lead over Dakota Miller. He has a 13-point lead over Tom Lethe, who had problems finishing this race. 23 better than David Cavan, and Jason Bolster now finds himself 28 points out of first place. I think Saturday night could be very pivotal to how those points are going to shake down. Same thing with the Hornets. We had about 37 to complete a 100-car field on Saturday night. We had 2 features. The first one, well, Davey Pennell, the first time he came to the Crosse Speedway this year, he won by about 2 track lengths. Found out later on he had an illegal shock. They DQ'd him. Came back out Saturday night, and Pennell showed he was the real deal. The car passed tech, and he was mighty fast. He was. Him and Bornitz were pretty much the quickest vehicles out there for the Hornet division that night, and they put on a pretty darn good show because they had to come from towards the back. Only thing that might have been faster than Davey Pennell was the tire that flew off of Josh Inglett's car right there, as that thing went all the way up into the turn 1 wall and came back down into the infield. So that was feature number 1. Feature number 2 had a gentleman out of Trempealeau. First time he's had a feature win this race season. And I've kind of wondered, Mike Drizkowski and J.R. Tortolot are teammates. They have the same identical paint schemes and number schemes. Obviously different numbers, but this night here belonged to J.R. Tortolot, as he held off a very hard-charging point leader Mark Bornitz in this one. You know, the Hornets are just so much fun. Their car count was in the 40s again this night. They had the 2 features. It is just so much fun watching this race, especially for us in the pits, being able to watch something this much fun. Well, these 3 drivers, the way that they finished right there was Tortolot, followed by the 63 of Jeff Stummelin, and then your point leader Mark Bornitz. Some big points were grabbed on Saturday night, as the next time the Hornets come back out, Bornitz only has a 2-point lead over Kim Strom. He's got a 3-point lead over Jeff Stummelin, 8 better than Jacob Bemis, who's been very interesting to watch this year. Andy Moore's only 10 back. Tortolot, your feature winner, only 12 back. Jeff Thompson's only 20 back. So they've got a lot of racing left with the Hornets. And that's 7 strong drivers right there that are going to battle this thing out. Coming up, this is the 122nd Interstate Fair. Lots of things going on at the race tracks. Talking about the go-kart track as well, as they race Wednesday and Sunday. We have Interstate Fair Street Drag Spectacular. It's $10 to race on Friday night. And the general admission of the grandstands is relatively cheap, as it is to get into the pits. They're racing for some fantastic trophies. And then Saturday night, we've got our 20-lap, 2 20-lap features with the late models coming up on Saturday. So if you want some racing, also with the Outlaws outlet, lacrosse is going to be the place to be. You know, for the fans that never get a chance to watch, or maybe you have in the past, KQEG TV replays the races in its entireties on Sunday nights at 7 o'clock. It's the Knights of Thunder. We thought it'd be interesting to get a little bit more behind the scenes on the show itself and how it's produced and exactly why it's produced. KQEG TV station manager Rick Wilson is joining us on the program today. Rick, good having you in from just down the hallway.
Good to see you. Good to be here.
You're not wearing anything checkered flag.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just my normal uniform.
He is wearing a tie, so future drivers coming in the show, if you want to wear a tie, that's fine. I like to see Johnny Olson or Rick Shermore or someone like that. Kyle Swenson in a tie.
Yeah.
I don't know if Roosh even owns any ties.
I don't think you'd see that, yeah.
How long has the Knights of Thunder been on KQEG TV? How long have you been replaying the races?
We took over the races from Charter Cablevision about, I want to say, 6-7 years ago, something like that. And we wanted to spice it up. You know, they were just putting it on the air, and pretty much it was flat. There was no really sponsors involved. We wanted to spice it up and make it more than just a video of the races,
right.
you know. So one of the things we did is we decided to go with 2 cameras. We have a camera located out on turn 1, as you know, and we also have another camera that's located in the press box. And both those cameras are shooting the entire races from beginning to end. Now, we also wanted to come up with a kind of a flashy name for it. So we really argued around here about what we would call it. Well, initially we came up with the idea we'd call it Sunday Thunder. You know,
okay.
And we came up with that idea because it was going to air on Sundays. Well, then we ran into a problem technically, and we ended up having to air it on Mondays for a while. And we thought, well, look what we've done to ourselves. We've dug ourselves this hole. Now Sunday Thunder is on Mondays, you know. And then what if we wanted to run it twice, you know? So we again went back to the drawing board the following year and said, what are we going to call it? What are we going to call it? And I got to thinking, you know, these guys, when they get on board these cars, they're like knights of old, you know. They're out there jousting.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we spell it Knights of Thunder with a K, and they get into their steeds of steel, and they're out there every week jousting with each other for a win, you know. So I thought that was a real clever way to do it. So that's been our theme since then. It's the Knights of Thunder.
I'm going to write that down, the Steeds
of Steel.
I have never used that one before here. That's going to be happening
Help
this
yourself.
week.
Help
the
yourself.
Steeds of Steel.
The Steeds of Steel, the
Okay.
Knights of Thunder. So anyway, we came up with that idea, and we've been rolling with it ever since. And we bring all the video back here on Saturday night, and Sunday morning I have a young man, Daniel Chihak, who comes in here early in the morning.
Does
He's
a nice
also
job
one
at the track.
One of our camera people, and he goes to work putting these 2 cameras together to try to make it look as seamless as possible. So when we get it ready for air at 7 o'clock that night, he spends about 6 or 7 hours doing this, getting the whole thing packed and put together so that when you see it, you see a seamless move, hopefully, between the 2 cameras. And it gives us a better opportunity to catch all the action by having 2 cameras out
Right.
there.
What I like about watching the races, and that's what I do almost every Sunday, we sit and watch the races. First, to teams watch the races because they want to see where they got together with someone. They want to see where they may have hit the accelerator wrong.
Yeah.
Your camera angles are actually very good for that. And a lot of fans love watching these races too. And I got to say, it is so cool how you have Dan's voiceover during the races, and then you kind of do a little recap when there's a slowdown in the events, when they're starting things up. You kind of, I was just amazed at how well it is so seamless, as you said.
And we do that so that we can, you know, condense it so that you don't have to, the viewer at home doesn't have to watch while they move the tires around and reset the track and warm up the cars. And we just, so that I jump in and we go to a break and then come back with practically they're at the starting gate by the time we come back.
Station Manager Rick Wilson joining us on the program, and after this break we're going to talk more about the intricacies of putting that race program together, and what's become a very popular YouTube fixture is the crash of the week. How do they determine if you've got a really good night of a lot of crashes? How do they determine what goes where? I'm being Al Losi, Station Manager Rick Wilson joining us. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with this break on 7 Rivers Racing.